Good afternoon, everyone. We welcome you for the Day 2 workshop. Hope everyone are installation is completed. Yes, kindly acknowledge. Fine. Okay, Prateek, you can go for the Day 2 hands-on workshop. Okay.
Yeah, hi all, good afternoon. Anyone facing issue with Choco install, Node, Android Studio or environment variable setup, because these two things are required to start the workshop. So if anyone facing an issue, do let me know. I'll give a quick overview before starting. So hope everyone has done the installation. Okay. So before starting, I'm just sharing one poll. Uh, Fill this poll. We'll start in next 2 minutes so that I can get idea about your knowledge regarding JavaScript. I've shared the link in the chat box. Kindly fill the poll as soon as possible. Hurry up, guys. It's just 12 words I received till now. Okay, so most of you have rated 1. So considering that we'll start from the minimal level. So since it's a very first workshop for React Native, so it's not possible for us to complete the entire app in 1.5 hour session. So I'll take you through how to use the UI components in the React Native, and then you can use those UI components and start digging it more into React Native. And if you want, after this session, just give your feedback. And if you find it very useful, we can have a detailed session at later point of time whenever time permits. So I'll coordinate with ma'am and can keep a full day session. But in today's session, it's not possible to complete the entire app. So because the knowledge is very minimal for JavaScript and time is very minimal, so we'll start with some basic components. Which, since nobody responded that anyone is facing issue with React Native setup, so I'm assuming everyone has done the setup and setup is up and running. I'll just quickly go through the setup once again and we'll start the session now. Okay, so yeah, sorry, I have to restart my browser. Some permission issues was there. So is my screen visible? Can anyone acknowledge if my screen is visible or not?
Yes. Yes, sir.
Once you are done with the setup, so some this is how it will look. So I'm able to run both the emulators on my screen. You can see iOS emulator as well as Android emulator. So if you are using Windows laptop, you are using this Android emulator, and for Mac OS, you will see the iOS emulator. And so to get this, we have done some setup yesterday. So I quickly go through it. So for Windows, you have to select the hardware as Windows, target OS as Android. Then first you have to install the Chocolatey. Just right click on the given link, get started, paste the script into terminal, and you are good to go with Chocolatey. Coming next, you have to install the node and open JDK. After installing Choco, just copy this command into terminal and it will install the JDK for you. Post that you have to install Android Studio with certain configurations. Make sure Android SDK platform, and virtual device are checked. After installing, just go to your SDK manager, select Android 10, and click on Show Package Details at the bottom right. Make sure Android SDK platform 29 is selected, Intel x86 Atom 64 image is selected. Click Apply to download. This will download the required dependency. Then after this, you have to configure your environment variable. So we have to configure two environment variables. First one is Android Home, and second one is Path. So when you press Windows keys and type environment variable, you will get the option to edit the environment variables. In the user variable, you have to create a variable Android Home and paste this path where this user is your username. And the next one is system path. So in the system variable, you have to edit the path variable and add this new line over there. So this is the path for platform tools. It will link the Android virtual device to your application. To create a new project, just since you have set up the globally the React Native, just create a folder anyway. Start the terminal into that folder and run this command: React Native npx React Native init awesome project. So this awesome project is nothing but a project name. You can give any name, but make sure you don't put any space in between. Now, if you are running on Windows, then you have to run this command npx React Native run Android. So where it is. So one second. Yeah, here. So for Windows user, you have to run this command npx react native run Android. And for iOS users, wait, I'll start the jam file. Can anyone guide me how to use this? I'm not sure how to use this jam file. Just simply I'll put in chat box. So for Android users, just simply run the command in the root directory of the project npx react native run Android. For iOS users, in the root directory, put in the, in the root directory, first you have to install the pod. So cd iOS npx pod install. And then go to a previous directory and run the command npx react native run iOS. So this is how you will start the project, and the moment you will start the project, so this is how the emulator will turn up into your screen, and you can open the project structure in any of the editor of your choice. I prefer Visual Studio Code. So are you guys able to see the code in my Visual Studio Code, or do you want me to zoom in? I hope it's visible now. Are you guys able to follow? Okay, so before starting, so I'll take you to the project structure. Since it's a cross-platform mobile app framework, so we'll have two different project structure, Android and iOS. You can see over here, the node modules. Then this is the custom folder I have created. This is app.js file I'll tell you about. This is index.js and this is package.json. So these are the very important files you will see across this project. So index.js is our entry file. So here we have to register our initial component. So our initial component by default is app.js. So by default, you have to register at least one component in index.js file. So we'll register app.js. So we import the file and we are registering the app.js file here. Then for the project structure, we'll consider, since we have registered this app.js file, so now our app.js file is our entry file. And you will see a lot of code here. Initial, this is a boilerplate when you install this project. And yesterday we talked a lot about hot reloading and fast performance, this and that. So I'll give you a quick demo. So you can see over here, step one, or like we'll modify, we'll do some changes over here. So just like step two, the moment to save, the moment you hit control S, we have seen the changes, right? Step two has been changed in both the emulators, or maybe like you can do anything, demo. It has been changed. So you don't have to rebuild the entire app again and again to see the changes. So you can just you can see your changes live the moment you hit the save button. So this is the initial boilerplate, which has a lot of code, and we're not gonna use it. So I'll just delete everything. So now you'll see a lot of errors on my screen because nothing is there.
Excuse me,
Yeah.
where you can find this app.js file?
So app.js file. So one second. So this. So once you create a project using npx React Native init some project name. So I created using demo. So this is a project structure, right? So in your editor, you have to open this demo folder. So this folder you have to open in your editor, and the left side you will see all these files. So this folder will contain all this Android, iOS, app.js source. No, the source will not there. This is a custom folder created by me. But apart from this, all this folder should be there. If all these files and folders are not there, then something is wrong with your installation part. So if you want, I can just screen share and I can see your project structure if everything is done correctly or not.
I just need to know where the tab.js file is. I shared my screen yesterday class at the end.
Yeah, but let me reshare it right now. Once again, I'll see your project structure and let you know.
Is my screen visible?
Yeah. Just show me in File Explorer.
So I go to File Explorer.
Yeah.
Should I go to that?
Yeah, just directly go to that folder where we have created the React app.
This one, right?
Double click this one. So see, you have this app.js file, right? This one above that app.json file.
This one.
So no, above this one. Yeah, this is the app.js file.
Oh, okay.
Okay, you can see this type, right? JavaScript file. So this is app.js file. So since I'm using VS Code, it is showing me with extension. So that's the same thing in your system only. So just open this entire project into your editor, whichever editor you are using, not only at the app.js file, the entire node project. This node folder you can open in the editor.
Editor. Is it possible to open it in Eclipse?
Yeah, you can open this node folder entirely in Eclipse also. There is no issue in that.
So I'll try it with Spider, but I think I don't have any Java programs in Spider.
That doesn't matter. You don't have need to install Java programs. So everyone just open this who's sharing? Aditya, you are sharing the screen, right?
Yes.
So Aditya is having the project named as Awesome Project. So whatever your project name is, just open the entire folder into your editor. So you will see all the files at one place. Don't just open app.js file, open the entire project into the editor. Just do command like this is how you will open. So so this is my project name. Demo is my project name. So I'm opening demo into the editor.
Please wait 1 second.
Yeah, sure.
Node. Should I open the whole project, right?
Yeah, whole project itself. Just go one step back and click on Awesome Project and select folder. So Aditya, you can stop sharing your screen. I'll start sharing now.
Okay, stop sharing.
So is my screen visible?
No, can you reshare it? Yes, it's now visible.
Yeah, okay. So since once you open the project, entire project in the editor, it will look like this. The project structure is like this. So you will see a lot of boilerplate in this app.js, which might seem very confusing at the starting stage. So we'll not look into this. We'll just simply delete everything, whatever there. It's written into this app.js file and save. You will see a lot of errors on the screen because nothing is there. So I'll tell you the minimum code you need to write so that no errors are there on screen. So the first one is we'll import the React library. Then second, we'll create a component. We used to call it React component, and we'll return the component. We'll return the JSX code from here and we'll export this component. And you need to have at least one view. This return tag can't be empty. So we'll import the view from React Native library. So this is the minimum code you need to write so that no errors are there on screen. So this is this 5-6 lines you have to write. So first you have to import the React library. Then you have to create a React component. So this app is your React component and we are returning our JSX from it and we are exporting this component. So understood till now, any issues in that? So just leave the boilerplate, whatever you see on screen, that's a lot of confusing. Delete the entire thing and just start code with me if you have done the setup correctly. So now if you, let's write some text over here. So now you will see one error over here. Can't find variable text because everything you write. So in web, how we write that div and all these things. So div and some random text or maybe some p tag and some random data. So here, whatever you want to display on the screen, it has to be any text, it has to be wrapped under a text component. And that text components need to be imported from React Native. So now you can see on the bottom left, hello is there, but you can see it has gone far away from the screen in the iOS devices because of this notch. So you will land into a lot of this kind of alignment issues where since there is no notch in this Android emulator, but there is a notch in this iOS emulator. To avoid such things, we'll wrap our entire component into safe area view. So now you can see hello is there itself and from in the iOS simulator, it has come down. So what safe area view will do, so it will calculate the notch area if the notch area is available in the devices. So it will it will ignore the notch area and will start calculating the screen dimension from the safe area. So since there is no notch in the Android emulator, so it started from the top left and here after ignoring the notch area, it started from the left side. So this is how you use text in React Native. So any doubts till now? Are you guys able to follow? And if your Android emulator is not up and running in your device, you can use physical device also as well. You can follow this same doc to connect using your physical device. Just connect using the cable and enable the USB debugging. And you can try the same thing in your physical device if Android emulator is not up and running in your devices. I think yesterday someone was trying with physical device, so you can try it out if Android emulator is not up and running. So any doubts till now? Shall we proceed or am I going too fast? Do let me know.
I just need two things. I yesterday connected with my physical device and
Okay.
should I just connected it with USB with my PC. Should I have to type some commands and reconnect it now?
Yeah. So you have to restart the server because since you disconnect the device from the laptop, that it will get disconnected from the node server. So just connect it once and just make sure the USB debugging is enabled because in most of the devices when you disconnect and you didn't use USB debugging for a long time, it will automatically disconnect. So make sure USB debugging is connected and restart the node server. That is just by giving this command npx react native run android in your root directory. So this command we have to, this npx react native run android, this command you have to enter into the root directory. So demo is your root directory of the project. So here you have to give this command npx react native run android in your command prompt of PowerShell.
Okay. Next thing is, could you copy paste the code in the chat box?
Can you guide me how to use this gem because this putting everything into chat box will be a little clumsy. I'm not sure how to use this gem file. how to share with you all so that you can take the code from here, or just do one thing. You can take the code from this notepad. I'm sharing one link. So open this notepad and you can get the live code from there if you need, or you can just type along with me. Anyone else facing any issue? Are you guys able to take the code from notepad? Aditya, is the code is there on notepad or not? Can you confirm?
One second. One second, please.
Yeah, sure.
Yes, the code is there on Notepad.
Yeah, okay. So you can go through the notepad if you simply want to copy paste the code and try the things out. But I'll suggest if you type on your own, because when you type on your own, you will end a lot of errors and then you will get to know how to solve this error, what mistakes you have made. So moving forward, you guys can stop me anytime if you feel like I'm going too fast, because there is a time limitation. So I have to quickly rush up. But if you feel I'm going too fast, you can stop me anytime. So let's see, like if you want to render one more text. So now you can see hello from Prateek. So yesterday I told you about this Flexbox, right? So in web version, the default. So let's talk about it, something about Flexbox. So for React JS, that is web version. So Flexbox. So the default layout is row. Default flex direction is row. And for React Native, default is column. So you can see by default, everything is rendered into the column fashion. And if you do the same thing in the React.js, you will find it into row fashion. So there are two things into Flexbox. One is justify content. Other one is align items. So justify content works along the axis, and this works across the axis, cross axis, sorry. So the thing is, like, if you see Flexbox Froggy, you will get much better understanding. So now display flex is there. Let's just do flex direction. By default, the flex direction is row, but let's see. So now my flex direction is row. So the x-axis, the default axis is now x-axis. So if I put, okay, so it will not allow me to do. So justify content if I put justify content center. So it will work along the axis. Since the direction is row, it is working along the axis. And if I put align items, so this will work across the axis. So this is how you differentiate. So if the direction is row, so justify content will work across the along the axis, and align items will work across the axis. Same way if the direction is vertical, so justify content will work along the vertical direction, and align items will work across the horizontal directions. So these things you have to keep in mind. So what's your default direction? And then you have to justify content or align items to center align or whatever alignment is required. So like that's the one thing. So yesterday we were talking about props and states. So I show you how to use all these things. So before that, since app.js is our entry file, so since this is only the demo project, so I might have only one or two files, but since if you work on a live project, there are n number of files across the project and you can't write the entire code into one file. So there is some project structure will follow. So we'll create one source folder. So in the root, just create one source folder and I'll create one more folder called components. So, and then one more folder I create. It's not on images. It's called screens. So now I'm having a source folder in which I have three different folders: components, images, and screens. So in screens, I'll keep the files, which is the file that I'll display on the screen, and images will contain all the images, and components will contain the custom code that will use by the screens to display the components on the screen. So you will understand this project structure very soon if you're finding difficulties. So let's just create one file into the screen file, screen folder, home.js, and make sure you use camel case notations. So you can use any notations, but camel case notation is preferred since once you start working in corporate, you will find all these things very necessary because the code is shared along a number of developers and it should be readable by all of them. So standard best practices you have to follow. So then again, we have to write the same code, that minimum code we have to write. So I'll just copy paste the code and just change the component name as home and home. So this is our code. So just to make sure, I'll just remove this one. So this contains one text file, home file. And since I have not made any changes, so this app.js have only one safe area view, which have nothing inside it. And we have one file home.js and the screen folder. So to use this file over in app.js, we'll just simply import it. So home. And since I'm not using any, I can just do the self-closing because I don't have anything to write. Like it's up to you guys how you have defined the project. Like you can use this syntax also. Line number 7 is also fine. Line number 6 is also fine. Since I don't have anything to write in between, so I'll go with syntax 6, line number 6. So now you can see my home code is there on the screen. So this home.js is nothing but a React component that I created, and now I export this home component and I use this the same component in app.js. And since I'm using this VS Code editor, it has auto imported for me and I can see the import statement from here. But if in case your editor doesn't support auto import, you have to write this import statement. I'll just share the code on the notepad. So this is the latest app.js file. And this is home.js. Make sure you follow the same project structure, otherwise you might end up in some errors while importing the files. So you guys able to follow? Are you able to see this? The changes what I made on my screens, are you able to see on your screens? Is my VS Code editor, like the code I'm writing, is it visible to you guys, or like do you want me to increase the font size? Is font size okay for you guys? Are you able to see, or do you want me to increase? Can anyone acknowledge? Karthik, Aditya, or maybe someone else? Guys, please do respond if you sit like this, not able to figure out what you guys are able to understand or not. It's for your own
Yeah, it's
benefit.
visible.
Okay. So shall I proceed? Karthik, you stuck with what? Okay, I'll just wait for another 1 or 2 minutes. Go ahead, type your code.
In the code that you have shared in
Yeah.
app.js,
Mm-hmm.
there's no line for importing home.
Sorry, there is no line for importing into.
Importing the home folder.
Yeah, it's there, right? So you can see in line number 3. So I have imported the home component from my source screen and then home.js. So like this is how it will work. So import the component name, whatever name you are passing as export default, you can use the same name over here. So import home from, then you have to select the source file, then you have to give the relative path to that particular file. So that file exists in screens and then home. So this is how you have to give the import statements based on your project structure. So this is a relative path. Use the same name what you have given for export default and just import the file. That you have to give the relative path to that particular file. Karthik, is your node server is on, or maybe sometimes it gets disconnected and you will not able to see anything on the device. So just restart the server if that's the case. Like once you hit the save button, you will see this refreshing thing on the emulator or device. If you see this, that means your server is up and running. If not, then just restart your server, because once your device get logged and you have to restart the server. So just make sure you increase your screen time, keep it for like 10-15 minutes so that it won't get logged again and again and you don't have to restart the server. So shall we proceed? So we have seen how to render text into the React Native. Then we'll see how to import image. So for importing image, we are using this import image tag we'll use, and the same thing will import it from React Native library. So this will have one source. So in this also we have to give one relative path. So I have stored the image into images folder, and you have to give the exact name of the image, what the name is there. So it's like React Native logo dot jpeg. So you can see this image is there, and you can give some style to it. So I have one image in my image folder, so I'm able to get it on my screen. You can just create one folder and put any image and just give the name to it. So this is how you import the local images, and if you want to import the image from any source, like any remote images you want, so in that scenario, you can use the URI and just pass the URL here, copy paste the URL from the internet, and that image will get loaded here. So now the question is, there is a lot of UI elements into this React Native, and you can't remember all these things, right? So how you will look into this? So before proceeding further, so I'll tell you how to use the docs here. So just go to components. So these are the basic components given by the React Native library. If you need more UI components, you can use this library, React Native elements, and one more most popular library is React Native, this native base, I guess, native base. So these are the two popular libraries that I personally use in my day-to-day projects and corporate projects for additional UI elements such as, just go to docs, like button, checkbox, import, radio, select. So these are the extra UI components that you will need, and chances are that it will not be available in the official library. So you can use these third-party libraries, React Native Elements and React Native Base. So these are the two most popular libraries. So now consider this. So we started with text, right? So just go to text here. So now you can see function components and class components. So you can write your React code in two ways, either class component or functional component. Whatever I'm showing you guys is a functional component because it's more readable than class-based component. You have to write a lot of code in class-based component. So I don't prefer class-based. So see, this is the code you have to write in class-based, and the functional component you have to write less and it's more readable. So now you can see some examples how they have used text. So you have used this text, and so this is how you can use text. And if you want to render image, then go to image tag, and you can see the examples over here how they have used the images. So they have imported the image, and how they are using it. They are just passing one style prop and source. So this is how you load a static image that is there in your local. This is how you load the image from, sorry. So this is how you load the image from the URL, and this is how you load the image from a base 64 PNG image. This is how you load it. And now what all things you can do with this particular component. So suppose this is the text component. So what all things you can do extra with this text component apart from this rendering it on the screen, how you can customize this text component. So all these things you can see in the docs. So you can see this props, right? So props is nothing but a shorthand of properties. So these are the n number of properties you can pass to text element, and you can see the results. So let's suppose if you want something on long press. So if someone long press in the text, then what should be done? So on long press, you can create one event. That event will trigger when it will detect a long press, or maybe on press, and then style, how you want to style your component. So I'll go through one or two examples and disabled. So let's see, suppose we have this text over here. So let's do on press. So on press, I want something like console.log text is pressed. So you will see text. The moment I'm tapping on the home file, this text file, you will see console in my statement, right? Or you can write a function call over here like const and you can just pass it, and now I can make the function call here. It will give me the same output. Now you can see same way of writing code. It's just this is more readable than just writing the entire thing, because since it's a one liner, I can write it here, but I can write n number of lines into this function that needs to be executed when something is tapped on a particular text or button. So this is how. Then another prop we have seen, disable, right? So if you pass this disable text, so it's pretty much understood. So it will disable the text. So now you will not see the console statement because the on press event is disabled. So either you can pass disabled like this or this. In both the scenarios, it stands for true. So that's the one way of using the doc. So just go through the docs, whichever UI component you need, just go through it, see the example, and along with it, the props, what all props you can pass. So now we'll just style this component, text component we have. So I'll just remove all these things. So we create one style object. So const styles equal to style sheet. So style sheet object will create. We will import the style sheet from React Native. So let's just create one style root. And we'll give flex1. And we'll pass the style to. So style is a prop that safe area view receives. And in style, what style we are passing? Styles.root. So styles is nothing but whatever the name I'm holding here for creating my style sheet object. That's a style sheet, and then a root object into my style object. So if I put ABC over here, so I write abc.root. So let's just follow the naming conventions. I'll just put styles.root. Oh, sorry. So let's just do some little bit more styling over here. We'll see why it's not taking the style. Okay, safe area view. We'll put it as view. One second, why this text component is not getting rendered? Something is wrong with this type prop. Something is wrong with this one. So now you can see this styles.root. So it's having a background color vertically center aligned. So let's just put some more content here. So we'll just style our text component. We'll remove this. Got it, why it's not coming like this. Since our home component is wrapped into this safe area view, so we have to give this flex1. So what Flex1 will do, it will take the entire possible space available on your screen. So since the entire screen is available, so it will take the entire screen, and you can see the red background is available throughout the screen. So that this is how you use the Flex properties. So you have to get some hands-on on Flexbox so that you can make some responsive apps with minimal style. So here if you use root now, so justify content center, align item center. So now you can say it's since the parent component is having a flex1 and child is also having a flex1, so child component has taken the entire space and now it's vertically and horizontally center aligned. Now we'll pass some styles to this text component. So all this root text is just custom name. You can type any name like ABC, any random name you can type, whatever it feels good to you. So let's just put some color as green, font size 24, font weight 500 or maybe something like bold. Style equal to styles dot text. Sorry, styles dot abc. Now you can see how you can style the components here. So any doubt till now? Am I going too fast or you guys able to follow? So it's already 2:20. So I'll give you one example how you can better understand state versus prop. So shall I proceed? Anyone having any doubt? Karthik, you able to follow? Aditya, Karthik.
Yes, bro.
Okay, so I proceed. So yesterday we talked a lot about state and prop. So, but still you guys have a lot of confusion how state is different from props. So let's suppose I have to write this particular piece of code 5 times. First approach is I can copy paste it 5 times. That's the first approach. Or maybe you can see, yeah. So that's the one thing. Or let's take some other example for better understanding. So that's my home file. And let's create one more file over here, home.js. So now you can see two pieces of code. I'll just rewrite it. So I have same piece of code. It's just the text is different. Rest else everything is same. Now if I have to make some changes, like suppose I have to make this color green to blue, and I want the same change somewhere else also, I have to go there and make the changes. Understood? So that's a repetition of task. Same piece of code I'm using n number of places, but to make change at one place, and I want this change to be reflected everywhere, I have to go all the files and make the changes. So that's the very first approach. If you have 2-3 files, then you can follow the approach. But what if the project is having 100 of files? You can't go to each and every file and make some changes, right? So what we'll do is instead of creating this file, same piece of code where you find like this is the repetition of code, you can create a React component to it and pass properties to it. So let's say we'll not use this dashboard file. comment it out, what we can do is I can receive this text as maybe title as a prop. This is my custom props. So I'll receive the props and I can pass title to it. So now you can see that I can't find variable title because this on line number 9, I have declared my component and now I have to pass props to it, that is title to it. So I can write home1, but still you will get the error because we have from the component, we have passed the props, we have declared the props, but we are not using it. We are receiving props and we are using a title. So props is a collection of objects. So you have to refer to this particular object. Now you can see home1. And now I can just slide, I can make changes. So now you can see the same structure to text. And now if I want to change the color or something, anything, change it at once, see everywhere. So got the idea how props work. So now coming to state. So now you can, so one more catch here. Props is a default. In props, you will find all the default props. And if you want to receive only one particular piece of props, like you don't want to receive the entire object, you can destructure it and simply put title, and then you don't have to use props or title. You can simply use title, same piece of code. Now I can use this piece of code any number of times. So this is called code reusability. So we have created, since I want to render a text with vertical and center horizontal alignment, and I have to use it multiple places, I have created a component. Instead of copy pasting, I've created one component and I'm reusing it multiple places. So let's just create a one sample. So we create one small thing. So we create two buttons and we'll increment the count value on click of button. So let's just take, I'll delete this one. So now creating button. So you need one button, right? So let's just go back to the docs. We'll see what all things we required for button. We need to import it from button and we can pass certain props like on press, title, color, accessibility label, but button has limited functionality. If you want more flexibility, then you can go with touchable opacity, touchable without feedback, and touchable highlight. So button has a very minimal functionality, but if you need more things, like if you want to wrap image, if you want to create a card and wrap it, if you want to create a card and you want something to happen on click of card, then you have to wrap that card into touchable opacity. So we'll just take this example with touchable opacity only. So let's just say touchable opacity text, and let's just say increase. Okay, we don't need all these things. So we'll have an increase button, very little bit styling, background color plain. So we have this increase button. We'll create one more button. Decrease. I'll just copy paste the same style. So now we have two buttons. On click of increase, we want some counter value to get increased. On click of decrease, we want that particular value to get decreased. So they are aligned vertically. I want them to align horizontally. So I'll wrap them in a view. So now this view is the parent element for these two touchable opacity, that is buttons. Let's just name it as container, display flex, and flex direction row. So now you can see these two buttons are horizontally aligned. We'll do some justify content. So let's see, this is taking the entire width, so we'll increase the width. It's too much, so we'll put 90% or 80%. So now we have two buttons. Let's just do some styling to text also. Are you guys able to follow? Just stop me anytime if you're finding it difficulty. Where is this text? We'll apply the same style to this text also. Okay, so the size is too much. Let's just reduce it to 20. So now we have two buttons. We'll have to do something. We have to increase the counter. So let's just create one text field. And let's take initially as 0. It is coming like this. We'll do some styling to it. Let's just see counter. Let's just put one more text statement. And we'll just put the same style to it. So, okay, that's fine. We don't have to create new style. We'll just pass the same style to the counter variable of text also. So now our basic skeleton is done. So we have two text. Current counter value is 0, increase, decrease. And since it's a hard coded value, so nothing will happen on click of increase. You can see I'm clicking these two buttons, but nothing is happening over here. So now to control this text value, we'll use states. Or just let me show one thing is, we'll take title from props. Title, and here I'll just change counter value is. So home component is receiving one props, that is title, and we are displaying the title, that is counter value is. 3 is hard coded value. We need to make it dynamic. We'll do it using states. how we'll do it, we'll see now. And these are the two buttons, and on click of these two buttons, it should get incremented or decremented based on the click. So we create one state over here. So count const counter and set counter. So to create a state, we'll use one hook called use state. So this is the syntax. So this is your counter value, and this is your setter value. So you can't modify the state directly. You can't just put like counter equal to 5 and it will modify the state. You have to use the setter variable to set the states and modify the states. So in use state, you can pass the initial values like a number or a string, an array or any object, or by default it's undefined. So let's keep it as 0 as by default. And now I can access this counter variable here. So now it's showing the default value 0. So I can change my default values anytime. And you can see the difference, right? So let's bring it back to 0. I'm still pressing the buttons, but nothing is changed because we are not handling any on press event on the buttons, and we are not mapping the state with the on press event of buttons. So we'll map them now. So we'll write two functions. Increase counter. So what this will do, in this will set the counter. So whatever the counter value is there, +1. So this is our setter to modify the states. So modify the counter state. So in set counter, we are passing the current value of counter and then incrementing it by 1. Similarly, we'll create for decrease counter. We'll create another function called decrease counter, and we'll decrement the state by 1. We have defined two functions to increase the counter and decrease the counter. And if I click on these two buttons, nothing is happening because still we are yet to map these two on press event with functions. So we'll map them now. So touchable opacity, you want to see how it works, just go to the docs, select touchable opacity. For props, style props, active opacity, we want something on press. So on press, we can see here. So let's just write on press. So on press of this event, we'll call increase counter, and this increase counter will execute this piece of code. It will increase the counter. Let's see if this is working. Now you can see 4, 5, 6, 7. Same goes for iOS. Now on the second one, so now you can see the counter values decremented. So how things works here, I'll tell you. So now you have seen the difference between props and states. So props is nothing but a property that we pass to a component, and states are used to control the components, the current value of the components that some UI component is holding or some business logic is holding, that we manage through states. So that's the difference that a lot of people were struggling to understand yesterday, how things work. So that's the basic example of how to use states. So how things work like here. So the moment, so I'll just reload it and show you how the initial things happen. So now initially both the things are at 0. So the moment your home.js loads into the component, so first this return, whatever is written inside these brackets, the code is highlighted. So whatever you return, so very first thing that it's going to get executed. So first, initially we pass the title as counter value is, and the initial value of counter is 0. You can see in line number 4. So initial, this counter will get executed and the initial value will be 0, and then we'll display 2 buttons on the screen. So when you click on this increase button, this increase counter will get called. This will modify the state. So when any of the state gets modified into a React component, the entire React component gets re-rendered onto the screen. But you won't find any difference because React virtually creates 2 different DOMs and compare these 2 DOMs and only and compare these 2 DOMs and find the differences between these 2 DOMs, and these only the difference is get repainted. So if you see, if I increase this count by 1, so the moment I click this, the state got changed and this component get re-rendered, and meanwhile React created a virtual component, a virtual DOM, and compared the 2 DOMs, 2 states of DOM, the previous one and the current one, and the only difference was there was the previous value was 0 and the next value is 1. So you only get you will only see a change with your naked eyes, that only this part gets changed. But the actual is the entire screen gets re-rendered, but you will only notice a change on this particular piece of particular piece of code. Like this one is getting incremented or decremented. So that's how things work. So the moment any of the state change in React Native, the entire return statement will get executed. Any of the state, like if I have any other state also, like const, let's suppose title and set title, use state, and let's say, or maybe we can create another counter variable. Sorry, is my screen visible? Hello.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So
The presentation is just now visible.
yeah. Previously it was visible, or I was just.
Yeah, it was visible. Just for a few seconds.
Yeah, by mistake I pressed the lock button, so that's why. So let's just create one more counter. So let's just say with default value 0. So I'll increment this counter along with the previous counter. So let's set counter 2. So I'll increment it by 1 and decrement it by 2. But you notice that I'm setting the counter 2, but I'm not using it anywhere. But still, if I click on increase button, the state is getting changed. So the moment the state will get changed, or just I'll say like let me. So now you can see I'm using 2 different states. I'm displaying the first state, but I'm modifying the second state. So the moment I click on increase button, you won't see any change because but the state I'm displaying is not getting changed, but the state I'm not displaying is getting changed. So React will re-render the code. It will create a virtual DOM. It will compare the 2 states and it will find the same thing only. There is no difference in the 2 DOMs. So it will not reflect any change on the screen. But actually this piece of code is re-rendering again and again. And if you want to see it, let's see. Let's put a console logo here. So now you see here. I click on this increase. So nothing is getting changed on the screen, but you can see this statement, right? Hello is logged over here. See, nothing is changed on the screen, but this console.log hello is there. So this component is getting re-rendered, but there is no difference in the virtual DOM. So you won't find any difference in the screen. So that's how states work. And there are a lot of hooks available. Use state is one of the hooks, and Some other hooks are use effect, use callback, use memo. So you will get to know all this about these hooks once you start digging more into React Native, how these things work. So that's all about how you can kickstart with React Native and how you can use basic UI components. And I'll suggest you can start more by how to navigate between screens. So you can use this library React Native navigation. For all the libraries, just follow the simple procedure, go to docs, how to install the library, and if there are any dependency along with the library, install the dependencies, start using navigation. So navigation, how you can navigate between these two screens, like screen one and screen two. Or one more, I'll suggest one more hook I'll show you, use effect hook. So let's just so now I'll end up into error. Okay, so 1 second. So use effect, what it will do, it will run the piece of code, and it will set the initial values. So whatever you write into use effect, and there if the dependency array is empty, so this piece of code will execute once when the component will get mounted on the screen, and when the component will get unmounted on the screen, so this is will run. And so 1 second. Yeah. So this piece of code will execute when the component will get mounted on the screen, and whatever you write in the return statement in the use effect will get render on the screen when you unmount the screen. So when you do some network calls and you want to fetch the data when the page get load, so we write all this piece of business logic in use effect, and we want like when we want to fetch data once only, then we'll write all this piece of code in use effect. And if you want something that, suppose if your state changes and you want to do some operations on every time the state gets changed, a particular state can change, so you can pass a particular piece of state, or you can pass any function over here. So you can pass any state function, any counter variable to this dependency array, and when there is a change in these values, this particular piece of code will get executed again. So that's how a use effect works. So now you can see that my initial value was 0, but in my use state, I make it as 5. So when the component gets loaded, so initially my counter state was 0, but after the component gets mounted and this use effect will get run, this piece of code will execute. It has set the counter variable to 5. And now if I increase or decrease, it will increase it from 5, 6, 7, and decrease it so on. So that's it, guys, from my end. So if you have any questions, you can ask now. Any difficulties between state and prop, how to use styles or UI components, or any other thing that you find it difficult to understand in today's session. Since the time was very minimal, so this is what we can cover, because you guys have a minimal knowledge of JavaScript. So if you want, we can keep a long detailed session also for the entire day at some later point of time. So any questions? Like, I'm open for questions now. We have 10 more minutes.
No questions from here.
Okay.
The coding part was a little bit easier than the setup part.
Yeah, I told you, because since React Native it's cross-platform, so you have to set up for both the things, and the setup is a little bit tedious for the new users and the beginners. But once you set up, so you will find it very easy to code, because it's all JavaScript only, right? So you don't have to learn any Java, Kotlin, or Swift. So it's just JavaScript, and you have to play around with the syntaxes. That's it. So this is just a basic example. You can do a lot more. You can create your small apps and try it out. You can like basic example of. So one question is, which is the best backend framework with React Native? So you can go with Node and either you can go with Node and Python. These two are the popular technologies used by the corporate world these days. So I have in my previous project I used Node, and in my current project we are using Python and Django. So these are the two things you can go for backend framework along with React Native. So if you all you need is some hands-on on JavaScript, and then you can start with. So you can notice that syntax we use in it's similar to what we use in Java. Sorry, in HTML. So here I'm using text, and there you use div and p tag instead of you we use div tags. So this is just similar to what we use in HTML, and all these things is just a small business logic that you can understand using once you understand JavaScript. All the syntaxes, different ways of defining functions. So this increase counter I've written, this is one way to write the function. Another way is that I can write the same function in this fashion also. Both things are same only. So it's just way of writing the code. So you will get to understand all these things once you go through JavaScript. So this piece of code and this piece of code has no difference. It's just how you define the syntax. So it's just the same thing. So I'll suggest you can take some Udemy courses on JavaScript on Kickstart with React Native. You will get a lot to learn. And I personally have taken 2, 3 courses of React Native from Udemy, and I found it very useful. And if you find and if you want to learn more on React Native, you can contact me anytime. So if 5 students are also there, I'll help you to grow in React Native. We can take along sessions anytime. You can contact me personally or at college level. If students are interested, I can take long sessions on weekends also if they don't have any exams or classes on. Sorry, some network issue was there. So like you can create your own small apps like a notepad app or a alarm app. So small apps you can take, and you can just deploy it on Play Store, because the amount at Play Store is very minimal. It's just $25 once you have to pay, and you can deploy a number of apps for the lifetime. So it's hardly around 2,000 rupees once you have to pay. So you will get a deployment experience, how to deploy your apps on Play Store, and you can share your apps and ideas across people and get their feedback. I myself, I want to create when yesterday I told you that I want to learn Realm database, and so I created a small expense app and I deployed it on Play Store. So I got a lot of feedback from different people. So around 200, 300 people downloaded it and gave me feedback what all things I can improve and what all features I can add to the basic app what I have created. So all this you can try with small projects, or maybe like a lot of projects are available on YouTube. So you can follow any YouTuber and find out how to start with React Native, and like small apps like how to install Google Maps and how to use Google Maps in your app, or how to render, or how to create a food delivery app. So you will get the entire code from scratch to the end. So you can follow any YouTubers. You will find n number of videos over there. So any other questions?
No, sir.
No, sir.
You can call me by name, so you don't have to use sir and all these things. So I'll tell you. So this sir and ma'am you will call in use. You have to change this habit after college, because if you work in IT companies, whether the person is at CEO level or your colleague, you have to call him or her by name. So in starting it will feel very awkward, but later you have to get used to it. So you have to start calling people by name in IT offices. Doesn't matter whether the person is CEO or sitting next to you. You have to call everyone by name. So start practicing it with now itself. Don't use it with teachers, but among other people, you can try this habit. It will help you a lot once you start your corporate life.
Thank you, Prateek.
Yes, we will try.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Students, please switch on your video so that we can take a group photo. Please switch on your videos. I want everyone to switch on your videos.
Now, is it Sabri sir behind?
Sabri sir, no?
I thought
He's,
Sabri sir is there.
no. His cabin is somewhere else.
Okay, okay.
I'm sitting in lab.
Yeah, yeah.
Please switch on your videos, ma. Achyut, Sanjay, Vishwanath, Saumya, Jyotsna, Deepak, Charita. Please, everyone, switch on your videos.
Please, yeah, you can switch on the camera. I have to post on LinkedIn also the same thing.
So you're also ready to take the screenshot.
Yeah, so once
Okay,
everyone will
please
turn on their
switch on.
camera, I'll post this on LinkedIn, right? So it will boost my profile also.
Switch on the videos. Vishwanath, Achyut, Taranya, Tarun Kumar, Devireddy, Tanisha, Tarlata, Mukesh. Please switch on your videos. Whether everyone switched on? Okay, Vishwanath is on. Only I can see Aditya, Santosh, Vishwanath, Teja, Vazira, Sagutru, Elarvati. That's it. Others, you are not ready to show up your face. Okay. Ravi?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
I must thank you, Prateek sir, for taking out time from your schedule to teach us about React Native. And thank you, Logeshwari ma'am, for organizing this webinar. And I must thank all the participants for their active participation in this webinar. And thank you everyone once again for making this a great webinar experience. Thank
So
you.
I've shared my contact details in the chat. So if you guys have any doubts and if you want to learn more about React Native, you can ping me anytime over mail or WhatsApp. Feel free to contact me. Thank you, everyone. It was nice workshop along with you guys.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prateek. Thanks a lot for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Do share the feedback with me. Or
Sure.
students are
Like
sharing.
yesterday, I'll send you the feedback responses. Now only I'm going to collect it. I'll send you by email.
Yeah, sure.
Okay?
Thank you.
Okay, ma. Thank you. Students, please listen. I have shared the feedback form link. Fill that form. Then only the OD will be awarded.
Is not letting us like showing is no longer accepting space.
Yeah, okay. 1 minute. I'll check out. Yeah. Now please refresh the screen and try it out. The feedback form will be taken for the OD list. Okay.
Ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Actually, yesterday I missed my feedback form since I was presenting the screen, ma'am.
Okay, whether you marked present or absent yesterday?
No, ma'am. My name was not in the OD list which you passed to our class.
That's what. Yesterday afternoon class, whether you marked absent or present?
No, ma'am. The message still didn't come for me as such. I'm absent. I think
Which hour for you?
After lunch. 5th hour, ma'am.
Yeah, fifth hour only. Which subject? Which staff?
FLA Deepa ma'am.
Deepa ma'am. Okay. I'll say her. What's your registration number?
Last 4 digits are 0035 AIML.
35 ANML for Deepa ma'am, right?
Yes.
Okay. Those who given the feedback can leave the session.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.